Good morning, all of you. Okay, let us begin the class for today. In the previous class, we have seen get element by ID method, get elements by name method, and get elements by tag name methods. Right? What are the functions we have seen? DHTML functions, document dot get element by ID. Hello, Praveen చెప్పు. One. అంటే ఇప్పుడు చేస్తే ఎట్లా పెడతాడు ఏం పెడతాడు అని మనకు తెలియదు. చేయమను. క్లాస్ ఉంది, క్లాసు 10:30 వరకు. సరే. హలో, so all of you please text your roll numbers. Well, am I audible? So these are the so we have already seen these three functions in the previous class, right? Get element by ID, get elements by name, get elements by tag name, and now we are going to see get elements by class name, right? So what is this function purpose? This is going to retrieve only one element. It is going to identify only one HTML element in the entire HTML document, which is matching with the ID attribute value, whatever parameter you pass here with that parameter value. If it is matching with that ID attribute value, then that element name will be extracted. And after extracting that element name, you can store it in a variable. If it is a get element by ID, this is going to return a single variable which contains the tag name. In this case, get elements by name. This is used to identify multiple tags, not one tag. Whereas get element by ID is used to identify only one tag and extract the tag name. but this tag is used to identify multiple tags which are having same name attribute value, and those multiple tags can be heterogeneous, means they can be uh, dissimilar. They one of the tag can be a paragraph tag, one can be a h1 tag, on some other one can be a td tag, anything, right? But all those multiple tag names is going to return in the form of an array starting with index 0. So for example, if there is a one tag, if one tag is there with a paragraph tag with its name is equal to, I'm giving uh, stu like this, right? Then whichever tags are having name attribute value is equal to stu, all those tags will be identified and their tag names will be stored in the form of an array. So this is going to return an array containing all the elements which are matching with name attribute value stu, right? So in what order they are going to they're going to be stored in that array, means whichever tag appears first in the document, that tag will be stored in 0 index, and next tag will be in stored in first index, so on up to the last index. How many tags are there, that many indices will be created, and in the same order they are going to be stored in that array. Same is the case with get elements by tag name also, but this function is used to retrieve the tag names with their tag name directly. So the tag name may be a paragraph p tag or a t tag, table td tag, input tag. That way you can identify and extract the tag name. So this is going to uh, re- uh, uh, return you also similar to this one. This is going to return all the tag names. It is, if there are say 10 input tags for example, so all those input tags will be stored in an array starting from index 0. Okay. What you need to give as parameter here, so if you want to extract all the input tags, then you need to give the tag name here input. If you want to extract all the paragraph tags, then you have to give paragraph tag name p here. Okay. So how many paragraphs are there in your entire HTML document? All those paragraph names will be returned and stored in the form of an array starting with index 0. And then coming to this document dot get elements by class name, this is going to retrieve all the HTML tags with class attribute value matching with whatever parameter you pass here. Fine. So this is how we can use this document dot get element by ID, get elements by name, get elements by tag name, get elements by class name, all these four functions. But along with these functions, you can also use the properties uh, like inner HTML value and src also can be used. This src will be used with a image tag, so I'll tell you how to use that src also in today's class. So what is this inner HTML going to do is, it is a property associated with the variables and arrays that are created by written by these functions. And if we use dot inner HTML after this, so what is this going to do? Instead of retrieving the tag, it is going to retrieve the content that is in between the opening and closing of that tag. Right? Say for example, get elements by tag name is there. Right? So if I give p tag here, then what is this going to return? It is going to return, if I give here dot inner HTML, what is this going to return? This is going to return the content that is stored in between paragraph tag in the form of a paragraph, the opening and closing paragraph tag. So that is going to be returned, right? So if you give value, when to use value? If you are using an input tag, you have to use value, right? So this is for what tag? Which tag? Input tag. And this will be used for what? This will be used for image tag, img tag. And this inner HTML can be used for any other tags. Not, it is not confined to only one tag. It can be used for any tag which has both opening and closing tags, right? If it is form input tag, then you have to use value. If it is image tag, then we have to use src. Okay, so in that way you can either extract a content that is already stored in between two paragraph tags in your HTML document by using these functions, or if the tag is an empty it is not containing any content, it is an empty paragraph tag created with an id, then you can insert a new content into that paragraph tag also, that we have seen in previous class, that is in day before yesterday's class, I guess, or on Tuesday's class, right? So that I have shown you. So if you want, you can refer the previous class video for that to recollect the concept. So this is how these functions are related to what? DHTML, dynamic HTML. So these are helpful for us in creating dynamic HTML content. So without these functions, the HTML pages are simply static HTML. They contain only static content. That means the content of your HTML page will not change by performing any event or action on your web page. But when you use these functions, this will help you in changing the content of your HTML page. Earlier, you may have one paragraph and you can change that to a different paragraph or a heading. I've shown you with an example in the previous class. Right. So let me show you one more program which uses this fourth one, because we didn't use this function in the previous class. We have used these three functions, but we didn't use this fourth one. So let me show you one program which uses this. So look at this. What is the output of this program? It is displaying hello world. The DOM is very useful. This example demonstrates the get element by class method. The first paragraph index 0 with class is equal to intro. The DOM is very useful. So this is the output of this program. So let us go into the program. But before that, let me tell you about this DOM. So DOM is nothing but it stands for document object model. What does it stands for? Document object model. Stands for document model. So JavaScript, not JavaScript, but actually any markup language, not just HTML. In the next unit, you're going to see another markup language called Extensible Markup Language (XML). XML stands for what? Extensible Markup Language. So this is what you're going to see in the next unit. Extensible Markup Language. So it stands for Extensible Markup Language (XML). So this is also another kind of markup language. So let us not discuss much about this XML now. So any of these markup languages, they will be represented with something called a document object model. They follow an model called DOM, document object model. So you can create an XML document just like a HTML document. When you create a .html file, we call that as a HTML document. Similarly, if you create a file with a .xml extension, then that is called as an XML document, XML file. Okay, so all these documents are represented with some model, and that model we call it as document object model. So what is this document object model going to contain? It is going to contain a tree like structure. Every document is represented in the form of a tree structure with a root node as the, in case of HTML document, the root node is HTML, and under that HTML you will have two child nodes. One is head and the other one is body. Again, head will have some child nodes like title, script, style, all these child nodes, and then body will have multiple child nodes. We cannot expect how many child nodes will be there for a HTML body tag, right? It depends on the purpose of the program that you are writing for. So depending on that purpose, the number of child tags or child nodes varies from document to document. But The structure will be same. At the top you'll have a root node, and for that you'll have child nodes, two child nodes, and then those two child nodes again in turn will have some other child node. So that way it is represented in the form of a tree structure. So that model we call it as a document object model. So all these functions you are using, get element by id, get elements by name, get elements by tag name, get elements by class name, so they are all part of this document object model. So that's the reason why you are using this document. So document is kind of an object in JavaScript which represents the DOM, document object model of your HTML document, right? So that is the reason why we will be using this document object dot. The function associated with that object is get element by id, and this is another function get elements by name. This is another function get elements by tag name. This is another function get elements by class name, right? So they are all associated with this single object called document object. So what is this document object doing? It is representing your document object model for your HTML document, right? Fine. So in your exam, if you are asked to write about document object model, you have to explain this way. So document object model stands for DOM. DOM stands for document object model, and it is a model used to represent the HTML or any markup language document in the form of a tree structure. So this DOM is represented with an object in JavaScript called document. So using that object, we can use many of the functions associated with that object to either extract the content of the HTML document or insert some new content into the HTML document. So you can do anything using this one. So if you are using to extract the content, then this document.getElement by id will be on the right side of the assignment operator. If you are inserting new content into the HTML document, then this document.getElement by id, all these functions will be on the left side of the assignment operator. So let me show that in your program here. See, now look at this statement. So what is the statement going to do? This is going to so where this document.getElements by class name function is written, it is written on the right hand side of this assignment operator. So whenever you have these functions, any of those four functions that we mentioned earlier, they are occurring on the right side of your assignment operator. So what does it indicate? It indicates that we are extracting the information from a tag which have class attribute is equal to intro. We are just extracting the and we didn't use inner HTML here, dot inner HTML. So when you don't use dot inner HTML, what does it indicate? It is indicating that you are just extracting the tag names. You're not extracting the content that is stored in between the tags. You're just extracting the tag names in the form of an array, and you're going to store those tag names in this array x. So now x will become an array. So x of 0 contains the first tag name, which is having class is equal to some intro. So if another tag also is having intro as its class attribute value, then that second tag also will that name also will be stored in this array in index x of 1. In that way, how many tags are there in your entire HTML document with class attribute value is equal to intro? So all those tags names will be stored in this array starting from index 0. Okay, but if you use dot inner HTML, then it will be different. So what is this going to do? This is going to retrieve the content that is stored in between these tag names, opening and closing tags, and that is going to be stored here in this array in that respective index. Fine. So if it is an input tag instead of inner HTML, then we'll use value. If it is input tag instead of using inner HTML, we'll use value. And if it is an image tag, then we'll use src. Okay, fine. So this is appearing on the right side of the assignment operator. So this is extracting the content from the existing HTML document. The same way, if you want to insert some value into a tag, for example, this paragraph tags here, if you observe, both these tags are empty. One of the paragraph is having id is equal to p1. The second paragraph is having id is equal to p2. Now, because these are empty paragraphs, if I want to insert something here, I can do that insertion by use by using the same document dot get element by functions. So here, what attribute is used? ID attribute is used. So you know that ID attribute value will be unique in the entire HTML document, right? It must be unique. Though you are permitted to write a multiple same value for the multiple tags, but don't do that, because HTML is case sensitive and HTML is very loosely typed and everything. What you can say, it is very simple. Even if you make a mistake, also if you do any logical mistake or a syntactical mistake, also it will ignore that mistakes in the document. So that's the reason why your program will work normally even if you don't follow that rule. But to make your document work properly, you must follow the rules when you're writing the program, right? So ID attribute value must be given uniquely. Class attribute value can be given multiple times. The same value can be given multiple times for multiple tags. So to identify this paragraph and insert content into this paragraph from the entire HTML document, then what we need to do, we need to use which function? Get element by ID function, because this is the only function which is going to identify only one particular HTML tag in the entire HTML document. So use document dot get element by ID of whatever ID you want to use. If you want to insert in between paragraph, first paragraph, then you use uh, parameter value as p1 dot inner HTML. Then after that, assignment operator. So look at what is the difference between these two statements. So in the first statement, this document dot get element by function is coming on the right side of the assignment operator, whereas here this is coming on the left side, because you are inserting new content. You are not extracting the content. Instead, you are inserting content into your HTML document, right? So it's exactly reverse of that. So this comes on the left hand side of the assignment operator. If I specify dot inner HTML, what does it indicate? It indicates that I want to insert some content in between the opening and closing tags. If it is an input tag, then we'll give what? Value. If it is an image tag, then we'll give src. Fine. Okay. So because this is a paragraph tag, I'm using inner HTML. And remember, when you are using this inner HTML property, HTML must be in capital letters and inner must be in small letters. Don't use whatever case you want. If you use a different case, then it will not work. This is case sensitive. This is property name. It is predefined. So it is case sensitive. So please use inner HTML in capital letters. Fine. And this is not your HTML code actually. This is JavaScript code. So JavaScript is case sensitive. It is not case insensitive like HTML. So don't use whatever case you want. Use the same exact case that is there here. Is equal to what I'm writing, the first paragraph. So you write it in the form of a string, either in single quote or double quote. So I'm using a single quote here. The first paragraph in brackets index 0 with class is equal to intro, right? Colon concatenated with x of 0. X of 0 means what? We have extracted the uh, tag which is having a class name is equal to intro. So which tag is having class is equal to intro? Which tag is having class is equal to intro? So this paragraph tag. Before these two empty paragraph tags, you have two more paragraph tags which are having class is equal to intro, right? So in x of 0, it contains which paragraph? This paragraph. The DOM is very useful. And in x of 1, you will have this paragraph content. This example demonstrates, right? So x of 0 refers to this first paragraph, x of 1 refers to the second paragraph. So we didn't retrieve the inner HTML content. We just retrieved the tag names and stored in X. So X of 0 contains this first paragraph P and X of 1 contains the second paragraph P. So here what I am doing is X of 0 dot inner HTML. X of 0 means what? This first paragraph. Dot inner HTML means the DOM is very useful. This content will be extracted and that will be concatenated with this, the first paragraph index 0 with class is equal to intro column. So this entire message will be concatenated with DOM is very useful. Okay. Then after that, one more document dot get element by ID. This time the second paragraph p2 is taken. ID is equal to p2 dot inner HTML is equal to the second paragraph index 1. That is index 1 means this one, right? Dot inner HTML is equal to the second paragraph index 1 with class is equal to intro. Now I am referring to the second paragraph as x of 1 because x is an array, right? X of 1 dot inner HTML. Fine. So what is x of 1? This paragraph. What is its inner HTML? This example demonstrate get elements by class name method. That's the reason you are getting the output like this. You have hello world, then the DOM is very useful paragraph, and then see you have first hello world, and then you have the DOM is very useful, and then you have this example demonstrate element by class name, right? But what you are doing, you are inserting into this uh, first paragraph whatever content you have extracted from these two paragraphs, in between these two paragraphs, by using these two. Okay, fine. So this is how you can use get elements by class name function, get elements by ID. We have used both the functions here. Get elements by class name, get elements by ID. In the previous class, we have used get elements by tag name, get elements by name functions, and get elements by ID also we have used there. Right. So you can combine all the functions together in a single program. So you need to understand when to use get element by ID, when to use get elements by name, when to use get elements by tag name. So if your tags are not having any name attribute or ID attribute or class attribute, then you have to use get element by tag name, right? Or if you want to use extract all the contents of all the paragraphs or all the TD tags or all the input tags, then you have to use the get elements by tag name. If you want to extract content from different types of tags, not all the tag names are same. Instead, you want to use content from one paragraph tag and another heading tag, another TD tag, like that. Then in that case, you can use either get element by name attribute, that is get elements by name, or get elements by class name. You can give same class name for those tags, or you can give name attribute value same. So generally, we use name attribute for input tags and class attribute for other tags. Okay. Now let me show you another program example how to change attributes. Not just the content of your HTML tag can be modified. You can also change the attribute, or you can set the attribute of a HTML tag also. That also let me show you. So look at this. The function, the file name is change attribute. So let me open that. So this is the program. So now this is displaying a message. This is displaying an image. This is an image displayed. Life is not just about what you achieve. It's about who you are and how you live. So this is the image that is displayed initially, and below that image you have a button change attribute value. So if I click on this change attribute value, the image is changed. So new image is displayed. Do not judge my story by the chapter you worked in on. So this is the image now you are finding, right? So the image has been changed. So how the image will be changing? Because earlier the source src attribute of image tag was different, and now we have modified it to a different value. So how to do that? So that will be explained here in this program. So first, the body tag using image tag, I'm displaying with width is equal to 200 and height is equal to 300 pixel, and a break tag is used. So what is the image that I'm displaying? src is equal to images.jpg. And for this image tag, I have given ID attribute. So to change this one, we can use which function? Get element by ID function. So let me show that image to you, that folder. So this is images.jpg. Right, this is the first image that we had when we first loaded this page into the browser. right? This same image. So later we are creating a button, change attribute value, and on click is equal to what you have given, change attr function. That means you are making a call to a function called change attr. So I've defined this function here, JavaScript function in the scripted tag here. So what is this doing? Document dot get element by id of image. So this is what we have given, id attribute value image. So exactly the same thing must be given here. Dot if it is an image tag, instead of using inner HTML or value, you have to use src attribute, right? So dot src is equal to, I'm changing it to another image called images3.jpg. So what is that images3.jpg? This is the image. So this is images3.jpg. So whenever you click on this button, the image will be modified. So this is very simple program, changing attribute of a tag. So so if it is image tag, you are using src. But if it is something else, if another tag is there, some another attribute is there, or body background color is there, then in that case you can use that attribute name here directly. Whatever attribute name is there, that attribute name you can use after the dot symbol, after writing this. So always when you are making a change to an existing content, this document dot dom functions must appear on the left hand side of the assignment operator. Remember that one, and the new value must appear on the right hand side of the assignment operator. So not just src attribute, you can also change any other attributes of any other HTML tags, but you need to mention instead of src that particular HTML tag attribute name, and you must mention the tag's id value exactly properly. So now let me show you another example. So look at this program. So there is a bulb symbol displayed. This is an image. So when I click on this, look at the bulb, it is glowing, right? So I have displayed a message here, click to turn on the light. So when I click on that and hold the mouse button like that, then the light will be on. And when I release the mouse button, then it will become again off. It will turn off. So what I am doing here is, I'm not doing anything uh, difficult thing or complex thing here. I have taken two images. One image is in a off state. Another image is in on state. So when I click on that image, what is happening is another image is being displayed. So I'm changing the source attribute value whenever I click on this button. And similarly, when I release the button, again it will be changed back to the previous one. So how to do this one? So to do this, we have two different attributes called uh, on mouse down and on mouse. So first, what we are doing is in the body tag, we are displaying an image, and below that image, a paragraph is displayed. Click to turn on the light. And what is this image containing? See, its ID value is given as my image, and I'm using two different attributes here, on mouse down and on mouse up. So on mouse down is one attribute that can be used in any tag. It can be used in any tag. So generally we use it for a image tag. You can click on that image, and when this attribute is used, what is the meaning of this attribute is whenever you click on the mouse button, just stay that way only. After clicking it, you don't release it. Stay clicked on that content on whichever tag you want. You can do that, right? So this function will be called whatever function name you have mentioned as the value of this attribute. So this function will be called automatically whenever you click on a particular content in which on whichever tag you are using. So if you click on the tag and on your browser window, then automatically this function gets called. And when you release the mouse button, then what function you want to call, that you have to mention as a value of on mouse up, right? Mouse up means you are releasing, mouse down means you are clicking. So two functions are defined, light on and light off. So when I click on the image, light on function will be called. When I release the mouse button, light off function will be called. And initially by default, image src is given as bulb of dot jpg. Let me show you that bulb of image. So this is bulb of image and this is bulb on image. Okay, so two images I have taken. So two functions are defined here in the head section in the script tag. Light on function and light off function are defined. So when this light on function will be called when you click on the image, that is when you press the mouse button down. So then this function will be called. So what is this function doing? Document dot get element by id of my image. This is what we have given id attribute value for image tag, right? Dot src is equal to change it to bulb on dot jpg, right? And when light off function is called, what is this going to do? It is going to change it back to bulb of dot jpg. This is simple, very simple. So earlier in the previous program, we just uh, changed the modified the content, existing content of source attribute value to a different image, but we didn't revert back to the previous image soon after you uh, refresh, soon after you release the button, right? But here what we are doing is once we press the button, the image will be changed to this one, and after you release the button again it will revert back to the old image. So that is the difference between two programs, right? And this one will only change the content to the new image and it will not revert back to the old image. Even if you click here, same thing will remain. That is the difference. So this is how you can change the attribute values also of a HTML tag using this JavaScript function, right? So whatever attribute you want to change, that attribute name you have to mention here, because image attribute will have src attribute. If you change that src attribute, then only the image displayed also will change. So that is the reason I'm using src here. If you want to change any other attribute of any other tag, then you can change it also in that way. If you want, you can change the width value, height value, that also you can change. In that way, you can use this JavaScript function to generate the dynamic content. Why I'm saying this is dynamic content? Because when the user performs an action, the content in your web page is changing. Again, I perform another action of releasing the button, then again it is changing back to something. So if your web page contains any content that is changing dynamically like that, and that is changing whenever user performs an action on it, then we call that web page as a dynamic web page. So as I told you, JavaScript's purpose is, it has three important purposes. First purpose is it will make your web page interactive. So we have seen that by using alert boxes, prompt boxes, and confirm boxes, it being interactive, and we have retrieved content from a HTML form and stored in our JavaScript program and then displayed back another content. So it is being interactive. You ask a question, then it will give you answer, and again you ask one more question, then it will give you back another answer. So in that way, request and response will be happening in between the user and the browser. So we say that it is interactive, right? So if two people are interacting, if I ask a question and you are answering something, then again I'll ask back another question and you'll answer back with a new answer. So some communication is happening between us, some conversation is happening. We call that interaction, right? So in the same way, if your web page is interacting with you, you give some content, then it will respond back with something else. Again, you ask something, then it will respond back with something else. So in that way, if this is happening, we call or we say that the web page is interactive. So we can make web pages interactive using JavaScript. That is the first important purpose of JavaScript. And second thing is validation. You can validate the data entered in the HTML form. So we have done that using regular expressions, right? And similarly, the third one is to add dynamic nature to your web page. So whenever the user performs some action from the browser window, you can change the content of the HTML page and display some new content. Again, some you perform some other operation, then you can change back to something else. So in that way, you can make your web page a little bit dynamic in nature. Not completely dynamic, but somewhat dynamic. Dynamic when your web page will become completely dynamic means not just images and all these things, but a large amount of data can be displayed on your browser window by extracting from some database. Then we can say it is completely dynamic, because on the back end also, on the server also, some validation will happen and some content will be transferred from backend database server to the front end HTML pages, and then again from HTML pages data can be sent to the backend server and inserted into the database. So in that way, in both the way, communication is happening from client to server and server to the client. Then the content is also changing in your page. Then we can say your web page is completely dynamic. So all these concepts that we were discussing in the previous class and today's class, they come under the concept called dynamic HTML, DHTML in short, right? So DHTML is based on, it is not actually a concept of HTML, but it is a concept linked to JavaScript. So using JavaScript's DOM, object model, document object model, we are going to generate dynamic HTML content. So in short, this topic is called as DHTML, right? So this is about DHTML. You can practice on this for more for to create small applications which will become more dynamic and interactive, and validation can be done. So if you practice more on this, then you will master it. Remember, this JavaScript will be useful for you in learning many other technologies which are built upon this JavaScript. AngularJS, React.js, Node.js, all these are built upon, and even Bootstrap is also uh, built upon to some extent using this JavaScript only. Once you master this JavaScript, then you can learn those other technologies that I mentioned now just before very easily. Otherwise, you'll not be able to learn them properly. Fine. So we are left over with one more topic in JavaScript. That topic is nothing but uh, user-defined objects. How to create user-defined objects. So look at this form. It just contains two text fields where you're supposed to enter your name and your roll number, and click on this submit button. And when you submit the form, the function person will be called. So I have defined a function called person here in the script tag in the head section. So what is this doing? Look at this var student. Student is like a variable, right? You create use var keyword and create some entity like this. This can be called as a variable, or even can be an array and even an object also. Now here in this case, this is an object. So how do you create your own object in your JavaScript program? You have used predefined objects right earlier, like a data object, a regular expression object, array object, number object, and boolean object, document object. So all these things are predefined objects, right? But similarly, you can create your own object also in your JavaScript. So to do that, what you need to do is use the var keyword and give a name for that object is equal to, open the brace and close the brace. Between the brace, you'll have name value pairs, just like dictionaries in Python. So you know dictionaries in Python, right? So they'll have name value pairs. So you can mention the name of the property. This is nothing but called as property. I told you that every object will be associated with two types of members. That is nothing but the first one is property and second one is function, right? So now here we are adding properties to this function, to this object student. The student is now an object, and to that object I am adding some properties, two different properties I am adding. So how to add the properties? Give the name for that property followed by a colon symbol and give the value that you want to store in that property, right? Similarly, another property and followed by a colon symbol, give the value for the second property. But dynamically what I'm doing is I'm extracting what the user enters in this HTML form. We have given name is equal to my form, and for this input text input tag, name is given as name, and for second input tag, name is given as roll number. So you can extract their values by using document object, document dot my form dot name dot value, and store it as a value for name property of your student object. Similarly, extract document dot my form dot roll number dot value, store it as a value of roll number property for the student object, right? Then after creating a uh, object like this, if you want to access the properties associated with the student object, then use that object name dot property name, student dot name, student dot roll number. So using an alert function, your name concatenated with student dot name, and your roll number concatenated with student dot roll number. So this is how you can create a object. So if you don't want to create an object with the values that is entered by the from the HTML form, then you can also create like this a predefined values. Employee is equal to, you can open the brace and close the brace, and can give name a colon. Directly you can give the values like this, comma, sorry, you'll have EID, right? You can give like this also. Then this is going to create another object called employee. And what are the properties associated? Name and EID. If you want to add one more, you can also add branch. Of branch, we'll use the term DEPT, department, faculty or employee. Student, will use the term branch. Yes. So now I can access name, EID, and department by using employee.name, employee.EID, employee.DEPT, like this. So it is somewhat similar to even structures in C language, right? And Python dictionaries in Python. So this is how you can create user defined objects. So let me also show you. So how to add functions also. You know that every object will be associated with properties as well as functions. So in the previous program we have just added property. You have just added property, right? So let me show you how to add function also to a object. So what is this program doing? Let me open this. So I used an object, and even in that object I am displaying, I'm storing the name, student name, roll number, and branch like this. And I've also added a function to that object, and I'm just making a call to that function using that object. So whenever I make a call to that function is going to display the values that are stored in that object, the properties that are stored in that object. So let me explain you this program. So simply a button is created with its label as get student info, and whenever you click on that button, this function objects will be called, right? This is the function objects. Here I'm creating a student object. So look at how I have created where student is equal to, open the brace, three properties I have created: name, whose value is Sachin; roll number, whose value is 567; branch, whose value is CSE. So I have given this by separating them with comma. So after the third property, now instead of property I want to add a function. So to add a function, what you need to do is give a name to that function first, right? So the function name is info. After the name given to that function, give a colon symbol and use this keyword function. Open the parenthesis and close the parenthesis to represent that this info is nothing but a function now. It is not a property or variable. It is a function, right? So this is user defined. You can give any name for that function. But this is predefined. You have to use function, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. If you want to add uh, parameters, you can also add parameters for this one. Now I am not using any parameters. So after creating this function like this, you have to open the brace and close the brace to give the definition for that function. And after that, the brace that we opened here, that is closed here, give a semicolon. So even if you don't give a semicolon also, it will work. But as per the syntax, we need to give semicolon, just like you do it for a structure in C language. Right? So I'm adding this function. So what is this function going to do? It is going to display document.write student details, a break tag, and then document.write name, this dot name. So why I'm using this keyword? You know this keyword in Java, right? It is used to refer to the current object, whichever is invoking this function. This function is being invoked by which object? The student object, right? So instead of mentioning the student object name, because we don't know the object name here, uh, we are using this keyword here even before the object is created and a name is given to that object. So when you don't have that object name already created and it is not known to us, then in that situation we are going to use this keyword. So you know this concept in Java. Same is the case here, right? So here we have to use this. Anywhere outside this object, you can use the object name as student. But this function is part of the student object, and the student object is not yet completed until we complete all close this brace here, right? So even before the object student is created, we are trying to refer to this object, and we don't know the object name. So that is the reason why we have to use this keyword here. So if you want to refer to this name property of the student object, you have to use this dot name. And similarly, roll number property, this dot roll number. And similarly, branch property, this dot branch, right? So this function is created. So with this, the uh, object creation is complete till here. Till here, the object creation is completed. Then after that, what I am doing, using that object student, I'm making a call to that function info. So when you are making a call info, open the parenthesis and close the parenthesis, ending with a semicolon. So now this function will be called. If you don't write this, I put this in comment, then let me show you what will happen. So is it displaying anything? Because the function is not called, so this part will not be executed, right? So if I remove this, then I'll get this. right? So this is how you can create user defined objects and add some properties to that object and functions also to that object. So in the next class, we are going to see using another process to create objects. I'll show you. It will take 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll wind up this JavaScript concept and start the second unit. So your second unit will have extensible markup language. Okay. So now, if you have already texted your roll numbers, you can text your roll numbers and leave the class. If you have any doubts, also you can query. Otherwise, you can leave it. Text your roll numbers and leave.